Every season, 24 players get to go to the NBA All-Star Game. In a league that features approximately 450 players, that is an incredibly small number, and some players just never make it. Currently, CJ McCollum and Jamal Murray, for example, are some of the top players still waiting for their All-Star nod. For McCollum, time might be running out, but Murray still has many years left to get there. There are many others, however, who already finished their careers, and despite putting together impressive numbers, never made an All-Star team. So let's look at the 10 best players who never crossed the border into All-Star territory. We start at number 10 with Richard Jefferson. Jefferson is a brilliant color commentator right now, and he was a really good player in New Jersey. His best 2008 season resulted in 22.6 points, 4.2 rebounds and 3.1 assists per game, but he didn't get an All-Star nod. First of all, because the Nets were not a playoff team. Also, he had Jason Kidd and Vince Carter in that team, and it's hard to get 3 players from a 34-win team into All-Star game. In previous years, when Nets were better, he was also playing good, but he always stayed in the shadow of 2 bigger stars. The other season, when he scored over 22 points per game, he only played around 30 games that year and also didn't get an All-Star selection. And as you can see in the highlights, he was a really great dunker and a versatile two-way player. Number 9. Cedric Maxwell. Maxwell is a 2-time NBA champion with the Boston Celtics, the 1981 Finals MVP, and he had his jersey retired by the Celtics. Over his 11-year career, he averaged over 12 points, 6 rebounds and 2 assists. His best season was arguably in 1979, when he averaged 19 points, 9.9 rebounds, 2.9 assists and 1.2 steals per game. But even that was not enough to send him to an All-Star game. Maxwell was clutch in the playoffs, played his role on title teams perfectly, and was almost unguardable in the post, but was often forgotten when it came to selecting the best players in the league. That's the downside of playing with the likes of Larry Bird, Tiny Archibald and Kevin McHale, and being outshined by some of the brightest stars. Even without an All-Star selection, Maxwell's career looks rather complete. He's got 2 rings, finished his career with over 10,000 career points. His jersey will forever be in the rafters of TD Garden, and he found a way to stay around basketball by working as a color commentator for the Celtics. There is not much to complain about here, but Maxwell certainly was deserving of an All-Star selection at least once in his career. Number 8. Jason Richardson. Richardson is best remembered for his proficiency in dunking and shooting. He won the NBA dunk contest in both 2002 and 2003, becoming the second player after Michael Jordan to win the competition back-to-back. In the open court, Richardson was a superb 3-point shooter, playing on the pace and space Phoenix Suns. The high flyer, playing alongside Steve Nash, was an alley-oop machine. Though he averaged over 20 points per game 3 times in his career, it was never good enough for All-Star consideration. He was either playing in bad teams such as Golden State Warriors in first decade of this century, or in Charlotte Bobcats, one of the worst franchises ever. Still, when you look at the list of players that made it to All-Star game, there are many who never were as good as him scoring-wise. A career average of over 17 points per game says for itself. And those dunks. How much more would we remember those All-Star games if Jay Rich would play there and make those incredible dunks there? Number 7. Al Jefferson. Jefferson entered the NBA straight out of Prentice High School in Mississippi, where he had a decorated career that culminated in first-team All-American honors and being the 15th overall pick by the Boston Celtics in 2004. Jefferson never made an All-Star team, despite having 3 seasons where he averaged more than 21 points and 11 rebounds, although he did make an All-NBA third team in 2014. For example, Dwight Howard only had 1 season when he averaged 21 points or more. Jefferson had a soft touch and a big posterior, and while he almost never dunked, his shot was very rarely blocked. Similar to Zach Randolph, Jefferson was certainly a guy at the top of the scouting report, and someone who garnered a double team. Unfortunately for Big Al, he was part of some terrible Celtics teams, and then was traded to Minnesota for Kevin Garnett. He improved every year, and in Charlotte he was a workhorse. His game would have been more appreciated in the 1980s than when he played. Number 6. Lou Williams. Lou Williams was one of the most consistent scorers of the bench the NBA has ever seen. With unshakable confidence, Williams combined off-balance floaters with a pump fake that defenders always fell for no matter how many times they told themselves no. He produced on every team he played on. He was the guy that other guys in the NBA always whispered about how nice he was. Williams' best season came with the Clippers in 2018, where he averaged over 22 points and 5 assists per game, while shooting 88% from the charity stripe, earning him the Sixth Man of the Year award for the second of 3 times in his career. Still, that wasn't enough to get at least one All-Star nod, something I cannot understand until now. Number 5. Jason Terry. On draft day in 1999, Jason Terry was the 10th overall pick, and in the 19 seasons since that day, he put together a solid career. Terry played for the Hawks, Mavericks, Celtics, Nets, Rockets and Bucks, averaging over 13 points on efficient shooting, over 2 rebounds, almost 4 assists and over 1 steal per game. He was at his best with the Dallas Mavericks though. In August of 2004, the Hawks traded Terry and Alan Henderson to Dallas in exchange for Antoine Walker and Tony Delk. Despite being the replacement for Steve Nash, whom the team let walk in free agency for the dislike of many fans, Terry quickly became a fan favorite. With the Mavericks, he won Sixth Man of the Year in 2009, as well as the 2011 NBA Championship, and became only the 5th player to score 30 or more points in his first finals game, joining Michael Jordan, Shawn Kemp, Tim Duncan and Allen Iverson. That is elite company, but the biggest difference between Terry and the other 4 is that Terry never made an All-Star team. When he won Sixth Man of the Year, Terry averaged 19.6 points, 3.8 assists and 1.2 steals. A couple of years earlier, in 2001, Terry averaged similar numbers with almost 20 points, over 3 rebounds and almost 5 assists. From the 2001 to 2013 seasons, he averaged double digits every season and shot more than 35% from 3 in all but one. Those have been All-Star numbers in other cases, and Terry did it consistently for a long time. Nevertheless, it was never quite enough to get him the All-Star nod. Number 4. Rod Strickland. From 1988 to 2005, Rod Strickland played for 9 NBA teams and averaged career numbers of 13 points, almost 4 rebounds and over 7 assists per game. Some of his best seasons were in 1995 with the Portland Trail Blazers and in 1998 with the Washington Bullets, when he led the whole league in assists per game, beating John Stockton after 9 years of his dominance. He also made the All-NBA second team that year, but was not voted an All-Star because Penny Hardaway, Tim Hardaway were ahead of him. There were plenty of opportunities for him to make it. From the 1990 season all the way to the 2000 season, Strickland averaged double digits and over 7 assists every year. This is not something a lot of players do, and he would have deserved at least one All-Star nod during that time. There were already a lot of guards in the All-Star conversation at that time, however, and Strickland just never made the cut. Between Michael Jordan, Isaiah Thomas, John Stockton, Clay Draxler and later Reggie Miller and Penny Hardaway, among others, Strickland got lost. This is not to say that he was more deserving than any of these players. He simply had tough competition to face at the guard spot and never got voted to an All-Star team, despite putting up numbers that would warrant a selection. Number 3. Lamar Odom. The 4th pick in the 1999 NBA draft never quite made it to the All-Star level, but does that mean that he didn't put together a good career? Over his career, Lamar Odom played for the Clippers, the Heat, the Lakers and the Mavericks, averaging over 13 points, over 8 rebounds and almost 4 assists. 2 of his best seasons came in 2001 with the Clippers and in 2004 with the Heat. Early in his career, Odom had some trouble violating the NBA's anti-drug policy, but when he came to Miami as a restricted free agent, it seemed that he would be able to make that jump into All-Star territory. After just 1 year with the Heat, Odom was traded to the Lakers along with Caron Butler and Brian Grant in exchange for Shaquille O'Neal. With the Lakers, Odom was not a priority, stuck behind Kobe Bryant, Andrew Bynum and Pau Gasol. 10 seasons into his career, he lost his starting spot and never got it back for the remainder of his career. That was the end of his All-Star hopes, but winning 2 titles with the Lakers probably made up for some of that. Odom certainly put up the numbers to be an All-Star and would have thrived in a positionless system, but he never quite made a leap. Number 2. Ron Harper. Can you imagine how much any rookie would be hyped right now if he averaged 22.9 points, 4.8 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 2.5 steals and 1 block per game? Those are the numbers from Ron Harper's rookie season, when he wasn't even Rookie of the Year. After that, Harper strung together 4 seasons with an average of 20 points or more, and 5 seasons when he averaged at least 15 points. Especially his first 8 seasons in the league were All-Star worthy. He is only the 3rd player next to Michael Jordan and Clyde Drexler to average at least 19 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists and 2 steals over that time. Nevertheless, Harper never made an All-Star team in his career. The simplest reason for that omission is that there were simply too many guards. When the competition at your position is headlined by Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas, it is not only difficult to be noticed, but also fruitless to hope for a sudden change in the hierarchy. At the same time, limited success with the Clippers, once the Cavaliers traded him in 1989, might also have contributed to Harper not making an All-Star team. And finally, number 1, Jamal Crawford. During his 20 seasons in the NBA, Jamal Crawford distinguished himself as one of the best ball handlers of his time and won 3 Sixth Man of the Year awards. He averaged 14.6 points, 2.2 rebounds and 3.4 assists for his career, and certainly didn't fail to meet the expectation for a lottery pick. Some of his best seasons included his 2008 campaign with the Knicks, when he averaged 20.6 points, 2.6 rebounds, 5 assists and 1 steal over 80 games as a starter, but also 3 seasons that earned him his Sixth Man of the Year awards in 2010, 2014 and 2016. In the last season he was already 36 years old, making him the oldest player to win the award. In 2019, 1 season before he retired, Crawford became the oldest player to put up 50 or more points in a game, and the first player to have 50-plus point games with 4 different teams. Not only was that quite an accomplishment, but also a nice way to round out his resume. The one thing missing from it, other than a championship of course, is an All-Star selection, which is crazy if you look at the numbers he put up, especially in the 2008 season. And that's my top 10 players who never made it to All-Star game. How do you rate your top 10? Let me know in the comments. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching today and I see you next time. Bye!